My favourite horror trope is probably what's called the harbinger, or the old man's warning. And you've seen the movies. It's when a bunch of kids or a family are going somewhere remote, and they always stop at a gas station or something, and some old guy says, "You don't want to go down that road." And of course they do. I think it's something to do with horror films having thresholds, the points of no return that you pass over, and from that point on, you're in trouble.
So my favourite horror trope is possessed technology. Films like Christine, The Duel, Demon Seed, a whole range of things where the things we think are normal in everyday life can be infected by the supernatural. Things like Maximum Overdrive, which is a great Stephen King short story made into a fantastic movie with an almost entirely AC/DC driven soundtrack.
My favourite horror trope is the transgression. And it goes right back to the Garden of Eden when you think about it. It's Eve taking the apple. You see it in lots and lots of horror movies. Someone doing something that they know is wrong. It's only a little bit wrong, but they're going to get a horrific punishment, usually death.
My favourite horror film of probably the last 10 years would be, I think, The Conjuring. It's just a great kind of really well told ghost story with a sort of demonic twist to it. And it spawned a whole kind of series of films, Annabelle, and The Nun, and so on. So it's just really impacted the horror landscape.
My favourite horror film, or films, I like a lot of horror films, but I kind of go back to things that have made that really big impression on me. And for me, that's like The Lost Boys. I know it's quite a lightweight movie, but I dearly love it. I also have just a huge fondness for The Fog, that perfect slice of kind of West Coast Americana that it has. Or really twisted things like In the Mouth of Madness. Again, steeped in Americana, but just a delight, just a beautiful narrative with just so many unexpected twists and turns.
It's difficult to say what my favourite horror film is because there's so many I like. I guess I go back to the real classics like The Exorcist, Halloween, Alien. I love all those movies. More recently, I really like Robert Eggers stuff. I like The Witch and The Lighthouse. They're very fresh, they're very new, and he's got an incredible vision of horror. I really like those films.
My favourite horror genre is probably demonic horror. I think anybody who's had even the slightest kind of Christian upbringing has a real sort of deep down fear of evil, and that's what it does. It's more than just ghosts haunting you, it's ghosts that bite.
So my favourite genre of horror is cosmic horror. What's cosmic horror? Well, Howard Phillips Lovecraft. The strange things in the universe beyond us, things we can't know. The idea that we aren't the only place where either supernatural or super terrifying things exist. Those outer gods beyond our vision. That's the kind of stuff I like. Colour out of space, that kind of thing. Truly inexplicable horror.
I like a lot of different genres of horror, but one that I really like is a really good ghost story. And when a ghost story is done well, it's a very unnerving and believable experience. The Others is a really good example of that. I've got very vivid memories of watching because of the way it unfurled and the horror that it contained.
I've always been very inspired by the works of H.P. Lovecraft, and that definitely was the inspiration for some parts of House of Ashes, specifically the Mountains of Madness. Just the idea of this big underground civilization from tens of thousands of years ago that's just sleeping down under the ground somewhere. If you play the game, you'll know what I mean.
So one film or TV show, book that's inspired me, that's impossible to answer. One, that's far too small. There are many. I mean, I already mentioned Lovecraft. I'm an absolute massive fan of Lovecraft and everything he wrote. Stephen King, obsessively Stephen King, every book in hardback. But also film. And For me, the classic is John Carpenter. You've got to love John Carpenter. Well, I love John Carpenter. Halloween. Halloween is the most seminal horror movie. Christine. In fact, anything. The Thing is almost certainly one of my top 3 favourite horror movies of all time.
One film that really inspired us was The Shining when we were making The Devil in Me. Obviously, The Shining has this remote hotel, which is huge in scale and is unnerving because it's empty of people. And we really lent into that in The Devil in Me. We looked at how the corridors were created, all those straight lines and threatening corners, and everything that's meant to make you feel nice because you're staying in a hotel becomes threatening, and that's the atmosphere we wanted to get in The Devil in Me.